monsters in the area are destroyed.
The King of the Monsters is back, Jose. Such a pretty good. I'll give that a 6 out of 10 on your Godzilla screen.
Thanks.
We're talking about Godzilla today. We haven't seen him in a video game in some time. We've seen him on the big screen recently. But Bandai Namco out of nowhere said, hey, we're gonna put out a Godzilla game. And it looked pretty awesome in all these previews and trailers. It's Godzilla stomping around in cities. There's big kaiju as enemies, Mothra, everyone's there.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty interesting. We got our hands on it. What do you think?
Looks can be deceiving, my friend.
Sure can.
That's what I think. Right away, you start off the game, and it takes you into this opening movie that just shows Godzilla, and he's just going through this rage, and he's crushing the city, and you're like, hell yeah, game looks like this. I'm feeling it. Let's jump in. Let's attack. And now he's like, well, okay, moving this way. Trigger buttons.
Yeah, Godzilla the lame tank, the game. It's the worst controls ever.
I have dual analogs on my control. I don't know if you do.
I do. I have another analog stick
But
right there.
you have to move Godzilla with L1 and R1,
It's insane.
which feels weird.
You're right, the controls are just crazy. And maybe they were trying to emulate what it's like being a giant monster by making it incredibly slow and plotting and boring. But I get the feeling that being a giant monster is a lot more fun than this game lets on. Because, I mean, just trying to do anything with Godzilla, the attacks, you've got a couple punches, you've got a tail
You square
swipe,
and triangle.
and then you have your breath, your lightning fire breath. As we all know, Godzilla's fire breath is sort of one of his most iconic defining features. Yet, in this game, they put it on this awful 1-minute timer, basically, where you like fire his breath very quickly. He just goes like, right? There's the breath. And then you gotta wait for this little meter, and you're just waiting and waiting, and you're waiting.
What does Godzilla want? Oh no, not the generator.
So like bland and boring. Yeah, here's a building. Oh, there's a power converter. Let's go hit it. It's gonna put up a shield. Back up, Godzilla. And he just.
I know, it's so depressing. It's so lifeless. I mean, for a game that's all about this giant monster terrorizing everyone, it's just so buttoned up and slow and boring. Like, you just don't really have any sense of urgency when you're doing anything. You don't even really have a health meter. I couldn't even figure out if he had health.
For the longest time, I'm like, I'm getting shot by tanks and helicopters, but I don't think anything bad's happening.
No, I don't think it matters.
Because Godzilla apparently has reached Area 5 and he's just growing and getting bigger. And then it's like, uh-oh, Godzilla reached Phase 2. There's a change in power. Prime Minister's not so in charge anymore. This other guy comes in. We must do everything to stop him.
You're talking about the King of Monsters story mode, which is interesting in the sense that there's like a multiple kind of pathway through this little mini Godzilla adventure. So you can choose, after you destroy a city, you can then choose, well, do you want to, go take this easy path or a harder path? And eventually you can destroy one area so thoroughly that the prime minister of that area quits, and then they like put a new prime minister, which basically just means there's an easy path or a hard path or a medium path. And the fact is, if you don't do the easy path the first time through, you'll die. There's a really big problem with this game in terms of kaiju fighting, which seems like it would be sort of the point of the game, right? Like, I mean, giant monsters fighting, but even if it's slow, you could at least make it entertaining by having, exactly, for instance, a block button. Like, a block button is sort of important when you're a giant monster getting hit by another giant monster. You can't block, you can't dodge, you can't do anything.
You can do your little charge. I just look away. So it's like, this is how you block.
Right, you charge the other. It's so lame. Is he still there?
I'm back.
Okay. The decisions they made in these modes, the decisions they made with the mechanics, totally bizarre, totally strange choices, and totally sucky from start to finish. I think we need to score it and get out of Tokyo before we get destroyed, Jose. What are you gonna give Godzilla?
3 out of 10.
Yeah, Godzilla, god damn it! 2.